Kwam Yashala, Kwam Shala. The Zephaniah, Yahayaka Yasha'Allah, with today's lesson, Pedigree, Seed of the Father. So this lesson right here is about proving the seed of the Father, because what's going on? In Israel, you got brothers saying that seed of the Father is not seed of the Father, when the scriptures blatantly say seed of the Father. Because you got some brothers that use seed of the Father to mess with heathens and all that. Now that's true, but that still don't make seed of the Father not seed of the Father. And you got brothers try to say, oh, the woman got a seed. We gonna see what the seed of the woman talking about, the seed of the man. We gonna see today. So enjoy the video. First, I want to say all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, the God that created the heavens and the earth. Thank Him for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the faith, grace, and mercy, and all the blessings thus far. Amen. Shalom. Pedigree. So, a brother read the word pedigree when they was trying to prove seed of the Father wasn't the seed of the Father. And they was crafty with it. They only read the first definition. The first definition, first thing you got to know, Israel, the English language, words have multiple meanings, right? The word pedigree in the English language, one definition is talking about an animal. They try to relate the animal to the human beings, but they didn't read the second definition. First definition, the record of descent of an animal showing it to be purebred. They are looking for animals with pedigrees. That was the sentence. Definition 2, the recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person of family. You see that? That's the real definition of pedigree right there. It's talking about recorded ancestry of a person or a family. It's not trying to prove if a person is purebred. Now let's check this out. This the definition of pedigree out the 1828 Webster. If anybody know about the 1828 Webster, this dictionary was out before the last definition I read. That came out the Modern Dictionary. This was from it was in 1828. The 1828 Webster breaks down the King's English. First definition: lineage, line of ancestors, which a person or tribe descends, genealogy. You see that? This before the Modern Dictionary added another definition to the word. But this was the original meaning of it. Definition 2, an account or register of a line of ancestors. The Jews preserved the pedigrees of their several tribes. You see that? And let's go up to definition 1. Underneath it, alterations of surnames have obscured the truth of our ancestors. The surname come from your father. That's how you get a surname. So it's basically telling you right there that your bloodline is determined by the father. Numbers, chapter 1, verse 17 through 18. And Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names. Verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward. by their pose. You see that? But the brother tried to say seed of the father, not talking about the seed of the father right here. You know what I mean? They didn't pull the other precept. When you teaching out the scriptures, it's supposed to always be another precept to validate another precept. A precept is a law, meaning a scripture. And when you just cherry pick one scripture and then run and cherry pick one definition out of the Bible, you're doing a disservice to the nation, because brothers trying to prove that the 12 tribe chart is not valid, so they gotta prove that the seed of the father, because they don't have another angle. But if Jacob was a Negro and seed of the father is the seed of the father, that totally just wipes the chart out, because that means all the tribes is Negro, from the Negro bloodline. They spent all these months trying to debate it when that's all they had to do. They were stuck in a pride, and they had to go miles and miles and miles worth of information just trying to prove it. And then they wind up twisting the definitions and twisting the scriptures. The book of Ezra, chapter 2, verse 59. And these were they which went up from Tel-Melah, Tel-Harsa, Chur, Adam, and Emer, but they could not show their father's house. But they could not show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. But they could not show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. You see that? It's plain upon tables. But they could not show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. Going back to their father's sperm is all it's talking about. And the more we go on this lesson, it's going to break it down more and more and more to prove that seed of the father is the seed of the father. Herms are a beneficial. A herm is when it's one male and multiple females in the animal kingdom. Herms are a beneficial social structure for the dominant male, as it allows him access to several reproductively available females at a time. Herms provide protection for the females within a particular herm, as dominant males will fiercely ward off potential invaders. Other men trying to, well, not men, but other animals, males trying to come in and take over that herm for themselves. And they going to do the same thing. They're not going to allow no other males to come in, because why? They trying to spread their bloodline. The more females they impregnate, the more their genes and bloodline going to stay in the population. That's what it's about. And it all go back to that particular male.
In these times of drought, outsider macaques are not welcome. Coram keeps watch over the troops' territory. There's barely enough food for his own group. He spots an intruder, one of the neighboring macaques. His show of strength sends a message to back off. But it's not just outsiders he needs to worry about. He's got problems closer to home. Vidu, the scheming henchman with the black lips, is making trouble. And tensions within the troop are reaching boiling point. In the macaque world, just the way you look at someone can trigger a battle. and Vidu's got Khorram's attention. His direct stare is a blatant challenge. Starting a fight has huge risks. Both males have inch-long canines that can cause serious damage. An injury can last a lifetime. Khorram summons his allies. He needs backup before he makes his move. It's time to put this usurper in his place. It's fight time. Anna and the other mothers gather up their infants. Everything's at stake. If Vidu wins, he could kill the newborns. A way to make his bloodline dominant.
This is a letter I got. Jacob, through his two wives and his 2 concubines, had 12 biological sons. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. And at least 1 daughter, Dinah. If there were other daughters, they are not mentioned in the Genesis story. You see that? It said all of them is... He had 12 biological sons. They trace back to Jacob. That's the moral to this letter right here. They don't even mention the wives, the mothers. It traced back to Jacob. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 26. Then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David, my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see that? It's talking about seed to go back to Jacob. You see that? And it said of David, talking about their offspring. Because you're a woman, you didn't inherit your father's Y chromosome. Female sex chromosomes are XX. Males are XY. Thus, you don't have a direct access to your paternal lineage. You see that? More proof that the lineage go back to the father. You can still get more information on your family's history, father's side, as long as you ask the right person for help. You gotta get a geneticist to help you with that. See what I'm saying? The woman only carried the woman chromosome, the male carried the female and the woman chromosome. More proof that the seed, the sperm is the living creature. The sperm dictate the sex. Because if that was the case, you will be able to trace the male lineage back to the woman. But you don't. Shalom. The book of Ezra, chapter 10, verse 16. And the children of the captivity did so, and Ezra the priest with certain chief of the fathers, after the house of their fathers, and all of them by their names, were separated, and set down in the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. You see that? They examining the matter according to the fathers. Seed of the fathers, talking about the sperm, the living creature. The book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 29 through 30. Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch. The patriarch, talking about the male. David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulture is with us until this day. Verse 30. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him a promise, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh. What's the fruit of the loins according to the flesh? It's sperm. He would raise up Christ to sit on his throne. You see that? It say that of the fruit of his loins according to the flesh, he will raise up Christ to sit on his throne. According to the sperm out of a man nuts, man. Out of a man balls. We gotta stop playing this game. The book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 4. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David. Nah, he was the lineage of David and a woman. He was of the house of the lineage of David. The book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. You see that? Why are you telling Rebecca it's 2 nations in thy womb? Why? From the seed of the father, 2 nations. 2 men came out of there. Jacob and Esau. So how can they be 2 nations? Well, they didn't even have no children yet. They didn't have any kids yet. How can they be 2 nations? They don't have a woman included. Why? Because lineage is counted by the seed of the father. Let's go back. Acts chapter 2, verse 29 through 30. Let's prove it. Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. 30. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on the throne. You see that? It just said that in the last verse. In Genesis 25 and 23, 2 nations are in thy womb. How can them two boys be 2 different nations? Because the man dictates the lineage. That's why it's saying David right here said by the fruit of his loins. See that? What genes are inherited from the father only? All men inherit a Y chromosome from their father, which means all traits that are only found on the Y chromosome come from dad, not mom. The supporting evidence Y-linked traits follow a clear paternal lineage. That's how you trace a nation back. You see that? It's a not mom. Come on now. Lineage, race, progeny, descendants in a line from a common progenitor. It don't say progenitors with an S. It say progenitor. Why? Because lineage goes back to the father. Race, progeny, descendants in a line from a common progenitor. You see that? And I believe I took this out the 1828 Webster. The further you go back, the more real truth you get. Now let's look at the word progenitor. An ancestor in the direct line. A forefather. Adam was the progenitor of the human race. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm just showing you in different ways over and over and over and effing over. That lineage go back to the father, proving the scripture seed of the father mean what it say. Seed of the father. It ain't no way around it. I'm chopping the head off this lie. Now this out the Compact Bible Dictionary. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. You see that? The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1 through 3. I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. Verse 2. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man. Nah, the seed of the woman and the seed of the man. The seed of man, and the pleasure that came with sleep. Verse 3. And when I was born, I drew in the common air, and fell upon the earth which is of like nature. And the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do. It's talking about how human beings are created, man. Talking about how they created from the seed of a man. See that? You cannot make this stuff. Let's see what the seed of a man is. The book of Job, chapter 25, verse 6. How much less man that is a worm? What? Wind that back. How much less man that is a worm? And the Son of Man, which is a worm. Talking about Christ. This is another scripture to cut up the virgin birth. It's telling you right there, man, that all men that walk on this earth's surface come from that little worm, what you call a sperm, is the living creature. Job chapter 25, verse 6. How much less man that is a worm, and the Son of Man, which is a worm. Come on, man. Yes, it's certainly as alive as any other cells in a male body, since it can have a life of its own outside the body. You see that? Each sperm is really an independent single-cell organism, like a living amoeba, but differing in locomotion and lifestyle. You see that? This thing can have a life of its own outside the body. What that mean? It's independent. Why? Because human beings are independent living beings once we come out the womb. It's its own living creature. Yes, it's certainly as alive as any other cell in the male's body. The book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 14. Fear not, thou worm, Jacob. You see that? Fear not, thou worm, Jacob, and ye men of Israel. I will help thee, saith the Lord, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. It just called Jacob a worm, man. The progenitor of the 12 tribes of Israel. It called him a worm. Why? Because whatever sperm that created the man Jacob was a living creature. A living worm that transformed into a man. Thou worm, Jacob. More proof that the sperm is the living creature.
Structure of a sperm cell. At the end of this module, you will be able to define the term sperm, explain the structure of a sperm. The term sperm refers to the male reproductive cell and is derived from the Greek word sperma, meaning seed. A motile uniflagellar sperm cell is referred to as a spermatozoon, and a non-motile sperm cell is referred to as a spermatium. Human sperm cells are approximately 60 microns in length and have a limited lifespan. Come, Let's learn about the structure of a sperm cell in this module. Structure of a sperm cell. A sperm has a typical structure and can be divided into 4 regions. The regions are head, neck, middle piece, and tail. Come, let's have a closer look at the structure of a sperm cell. The sperm head is oval in shape that allows the sperm to penetrate the egg. The head contains a large nucleus which has a flattened, oval shape, and it contains the necessary hereditary information needed to reproduce after the sperm cell has fertilized the egg. The head also has an enzyme-filled vesicle called an acrosomal region that covers about 2/3 of the head. It contains the enzyme hyaluronidase and protease, which aids in the sperm penetrating into the ovum. The acrosome is formed from the Golgi apparatus and is bound by an inner acrosomal membrane that faces the nucleus and an outer acrosomal membrane that is in close contact with the plasma membrane. The acrosome corresponds functionally to a lysosome and releases the enzymes that dissolve the coats of the oocyte, enabling the penetration of the sperm into the ovum. Thus, the head helps in penetration of the sperm into the ovum and has the hereditary information needed. Next is the neck region, which is a short region seen immediately behind the head. The neck region is also called the connecting piece, and it carries a proximal centriole which initiates division of zygotes and a distal centriole which gives rise to the axial tail. Behind the neck region is seen the middle piece, which is formed when the mitochondria of a sperm cell aligns as a helix around the first part of the tail. The middle piece functions as an energy source as it supplies energy to the sperm and is surrounded by a thin cytoplasmic sheath called manchette. The spiral arrangement of the mitochondria is called Nebenkern. The tail is long and slender and consists of an axial filament known as flagella. The flagella is composed of a core of microtubules and has a characteristic 9+2 arrangement, that is, 2 central filaments surrounded by 9 outer filaments. The flagellating tail propels the sperm cell, enabling the sperm to reach the egg and fertilize it. Here is a recap of the concepts learnt in this module. Go through them.
Now it's gonna get deeper. Now we gonna see going into what the seed of the woman talking about too. Cause it take the two, like when you got a seed, a plant seed, the embryo, the living creature already in the seed is the casing to protect it, the incubator. But in the human species, the sperm climbs into the egg and will form one. Let's see, and when they come together, it will form the seed. You know what I mean? The finished product of the seed. The seed of the woman is just talking about an egg, which is nothing. It's just the incubator. That's how complex and deep this is. The book of Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Let's prove it. Therefore, shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. How is there going to be one flesh? When that sperm, it ain't just talking about we going to be on the same page or we going to have sex. It is, but on the deepest level, when that sperm go in that womb and climb into that egg, they become one flesh. They become one creature. You see that? Because the egg is the incubator. And the sperm, the egg is a seed, but it's not the living seed. It's the shell of the living seed, which is the sperm. See that? See that sperm wiggling, trying to get inside that egg? Look, that's the living creature. Look, the sperm trying to get inside the egg. The egg is just a shell, an incubator. It has genetic material in it, but it's just like putting a seed in the ground. But it's just a plant seed has the sperm in it. It has the embryo in it. That sperm is the embryo, and it climbs inside the egg and grows. That's what it does. You see what the living creature is. You can see it. And when it gets inside that egg, it becomes one flesh. See them sperms trying to crawl in there, trying to bore their way into that egg. That egg is the shell, and it take the sperm to get in there to create the living seed. Yeah, the woman have a seed, but it's empty. It's a shell. The sperm is the living seed that goes into there to create one seed. It's incomplete. See what I'm saying? But the sperm is the living creature. So when it says seed of the father, that's why it's saying seed of the father. Because the sperm is the living creature. it goes into the egg and then transforms into another creature. The egg is just the help. That's all it is. Just like we call a woman a helpmate, the egg is a helpmate, an empty shell. It's like an empty seed. Then when the sperm go in there, now it's a living seed. Shalom. Also, that's why the lineage goes back to the father. The lineage goes back to that sperm. Whatever that sperm is that got in there, that's what they trace the lineage back to. Now, Shalom. Look, they fighting to get in there. They trying to see who gonna winner gonna be. The one that get in there is gonna be the winner, and the other ones are gonna get casted out. It's a battle and a fight and a struggle to get in there. You can see it. This high electron microscope. You see that? Sperm is the living creature. You seeing it right here. The egg doesn't do anything. The egg just sitting there. The egg holds the nutrients, additional genetic material from the mom to add on to it. But that sperm is the initial creature. Just like we seen with a plant seed. Once that sperm get in there, it creates one whole seed. That's why I say the seed of the woman, seed of the man. But we know the seed of the woman is the empty shell pod, and the seed of the man is the living creature pod. And when they go together to create one living seed, one total living seed, a complete seed. But the woman egg is part of the seed. So that's why I say seed of the woman. You know what I mean? But by no stretch of the imagination is that egg alive. It's not. It need that spark, that life spark from that sperm to get in there and create the living creature. You know, they even did stuff like take regular DNA genetics and force it into an egg and create a baby that way. But by no stretch can the egg create an embryo on its own. It doesn't have the initial genetic material. That egg needs additional genetic material to go in there to create the spark of life. And that's the whole point. And that's what brothers not getting. That's what they not seeing. Because they not really studying the science. They just reading scriptures. You got to make the scriptures come to life. You got to connect real life with the scriptures. Shalom. Most seeds consist of 3 parts: embryo, endosperm, and seed coat. That seed coat is the woman's egg. The embryo and endosperm is the male sperm. The embryo is a tiny plant that has a root, a stem, and one or more leaves. The endosperm is the nutritive tissue of the seed, often a combination of starch, oil, and protein. You see that? The male, that embryo is the male sperm, and that seed coat is the egg, and that endosperm is just the nutrients that's inside. We just seen that on video. But it take the woman egg and the male sperm to come together to create the finished product of the seed. Shalom.
Talking about plants, in many trees like the one in the story, beautiful flowers grow. These flowers are not only beautiful to look at, many of them also turn into juicy fruits. We like to eat many fruits, but are the seeds found inside the fruits useless? No. As we saw in the story, they are there for a reason. In most of the plants, just like the one in the story, the seeds have a baby plant inside it. Where does the baby plant get its food from? The food is stored in the seed itself. What all things are necessary for the seed to grow into the baby plant? As we saw in the story, when the seed gets the right amount of air, water, and warmth, the baby plant starts growing. Apart from these, the seed needs the soil, which is the top layer of the earth on which the plants grow. Remember the soil man in the story? This growth of a new plant from a seed is called as germination. And so, the journey of a new plant starts. Once the plant grows big and has many green leaves, it starts making its own food. Growing bigger and bigger, after many days and months, the baby plants become big, similar to the parent plant where it came from. Now we understand that most of the new plants grow from the seeds. This is all for now, kids. Have fun. Bye-bye.
You are my genius brother.
Yes, I am. Because I watch MakeMeGenius.com every day.
Time for me to wake up. Oh, hi, human. I'm the amazing thing, Seed. How are you? Look closely. I may look like a simpleton, but there is more to me. A seed coat to keep me safe. A stash of food supply to feed me until I'm old enough to make my own food. They call it cotyledon. And a baby tree, an embryo. That's all.
Seeds have three main parts: embryo, food store, seed coat. The embryo is an immature plant
You see
that will grow
that
to
embryo?
become
That's
an
the
adult
sperm
plant.
right there. Even
The
look at
food
it.
store consists
That's
of
the sperm
starch.
that climbs into
This
the
is
egg
for
in
the
the
young
human
plant
beings.
to
That
use
sperm
until
that
it's
climbs
able
into
to
the
carry out
female egg
photosynthesis.
is the
The
embryo.
seed coat is the
See that?
protective outer
The
covering.
egg is that seed coat is just the
Germination
shell.
is the
female
process
egg
in
is
which
just
the
shell.
seed begins to develop into a new young plant. This process is controlled by enzymes. There are a few factors required for the plant to grow. These are sunlight, water, oxygen, and warm temperature. The water required comes from the soil. Oxygen is required for aerobic respiration. Warm temperature increases enzyme activity and ultimately the growth rate of the plant. The process of germination begins when a seed is put into the soil.
You see that?
The seed
So
begins to
once
absorb
the sperm
water.
connects
As
with
it does this, the seed coat
the
becomes
shell,
soft
which is the
and
female
swells.
seed, and it become a
The
living
seed also
seed,
requires
that
nutrients, which it gets from
then
its food
that living
storage in the
seed then
cotyledons.
travels to a part
After this,
up in
the
the
seed
uterus
ruptures
and
begins to
connects
grow
itself with the
roots and
uterus
shoots.
wall. That
The
would be
root
considered
grows
the
into the
ground,
soil
and
to
then
search for
it
more
continues
water
its
and
gestation.
nutrients.
When
The
the
roots
sperm
also
going there,
helps to
it's
keep
still
the
another
seed
process
anchored
to
in
get
place.
to which what we
Then
would
the
call
shoot
the
grows
ground
upwards
part
through the
of the
soil
female,
towards a source of light and air.
if that makes
The seed
sense.
coat falls off
So
during
the
this
female
process.
will supply the seed coat,
As the plant
which
continues
is
to
the
grow,
empty egg,
it will need plenty of air,
right? The
water,
shell.
light,
And the
nutrients,
nutrients
and enough
inside the
space to
egg
grow.
will be the food storage.
The reason the
The
plant
man
needs all of these
supplies.
things is
Oh, and the
because it will
uterine
need to
wall,
carry
the
out the
uterus
process of
is the ground
photosynthesis.
where the egg goes and attaches itself
Photosynthesis
after
is
it's
the process
fertilized.
in which carbon
And the
dioxide,
male supplies
water, and
the
light
sperm,
energy
which
produces
is the
oxygen
embryo,
and
the living
glucose.
creature to create one total
Once
living
the roots and
seed.
shoots are big enough to carry out the process of photosynthesis, the cotyledon falls off and becomes part of the soil. The plant then begins to grow leaves, flowers, and fruit. If you would like to learn more about photosynthesis, then click the video here.
So here is a drawing of a lima bean seed, and we're kind of looking inside the seed at just one half. We're going to identify 4 of the most important parts of the seed that help it to grow and germinate into a seedling. So first there is the part of the seed that protects the seed until it is ready to grow. And that is called the seed coat. Think about just like you put on a coat for protection in the winter from the cold, the seed coat protects the seed until it's ready to grow. Next, we have the cotyledon, and that's this whole big part of the seed. The cotyledon is the food for the seed. This is the stored food that the seed uses until it breaks through the surface of the soil and can start to use sunlight and photosynthesis to grow. And that said cotyledon, or stored food. The next part, and this is the teeny tiny part that we saw inside of the seed that almost looked like a little root. This is the baby plant, which is called an embryo or baby plant.
You see that in human beings, the sperm got to climb into the egg to create that embryo.
And that will
The
grow
plants come
into
ready made.
the
You know what I
adult
mean?
plant.
Like that. But in human beings
Part of it
or in
will
mammals,
be the root, and the other part will
the
continue to
male
grow
impregnates the
up
female,
into the stem of the plant.
and it creates a
And the
union
last part that I want
where
us
the
to
sperm and the
think
egg
about and remember is
become
the
one total
true
seed.
These are
But the
first
sperm is the
leaves that the
embryo
plant will have
in a
that,
different stage. You see that it swims and then it goes into the egg and then it starts to develop and turn into another creature. See that?
Fertilization is the epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story
Why is it
of all
faced
of
with
us.
incredible odds? Because it has to swim. It's a living creature. It
During
has to
sexual
swim and
intercourse,
then
about
get into the
300
egg so
million
it can
sperm
gestate,
enter the vagina.
so it can develop into another creature, a human being.
Soon afterward, millions of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluid surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here the cervix is open for a few days while the woman ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which is thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group. Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the woman's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands more. Next, half the sperm head for the empty fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg. Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. Inside the zona pellucida is a narrow, fluid-filled space just outside the egg cell membrane. The first sperm to make contact will fertilize the egg. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane. As the reaction spreads outward, the zona pellucida hardens, trapping any sperm unlucky enough to be caught inside. Outside the egg, sperm are no longer able to attach to the zona pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic material spreads out. A new membrane forms around the genetic material, creating the male pronucleus. Inside, the genetic material reforms into 23 chromosomes. The female genetic material, awakened by the fusion of the sperm with the egg, finishes dividing, resulting in the female pronucleus, which also contains 23 chromosomes. As the male and female pronuclei form, spiderweb-like threads called microtubules pull them toward each other. The two sets of chromosomes join together, completing the process of fertilization. At this moment, a unique genetic code arises, instantly determining gender, hair color, eye color, and hundreds of other characteristics. This new single cell, the zygote, is the beginning of a new human being. And now the cilia in the fallopian tube gently sweep the zygote toward the uterus, where he or she will implant in the rich uterine lining, growing and maturing for the next 9 months until ready for birth.
The Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 1 through 3. I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man. Being compacted in blood of the seed of man. Nah, the seed of the woman and the man. The seed of man. You see that? And it just showed you in a video before that the DNA is predicated on that seed. Because the male sperm, the sperm has the Y and the X chromosome. So that's why lineage is traced back to the man. Because a woman, you can't trace back no males through the woman when you're doing genetic analysis. Because they only have the X chromosome. The book of Matthew, chapter 20, verse 28. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but the minister. So we all know that's talking about Christ, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, and give his life a ransom for many. He was the ultimate sacrifice. We all know that, right? Let's say the Son of Man. The last scripture I read in Wisdom of Solomon in 7, it say the seed of man. Why Christ called the Son of Man? The Son of Man. Because he came from sperm. For you immaculate conception theorists. The book of Job, chapter 25, verse 6. How much less man that is a worm? Why is it calling man a worm? How much less man that is a worm? And the Son of Man, which is a worm. That's talking about Christ. Letting you know right there that the Son of Man came from sperm. And the Son of Man, which is a worm. It's a distinction right there. How much less man that is a worm? That's talking about man and woman, telling you that we come from sperm. And the Son of Man, which is a worm. You see that? Talking about Christ right there. This in Job. Talking about Christ. What's Christ's nickname? I just read it in Matthew, the Son of Man. The sperm is the living creature. The book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 17 and 18. And Moses and Aaron took these men which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their poles. You see that? Why is it expressing the pedigrees after their families? Now, we went early in the lesson, pedigrees is talking about lineage. After their families by the house of their fathers. Why? Because the sperm is the living creature. The sperm determines what the sex is when it already come out. The female genes just add into the mixture. That's it. The book of Ezra, chapter 2, verse 59. And these were they which went up from Tel Malah, Tel Harsa, Chur, and Adam, and Emer. But they could not show their father's house. and their seed, whether they were of Israel. But they could not show their father's house, and their seed, whether they were of Israel. That scripture blatantly telling you that the lineage is determined by the seed of the father. And that shows you over and over all through this lesson. The woman is just the incubator. Yeah, that shell that the sperm going to is a seed, but it's an empty seed. You see what I'm saying? The seed of the man is twofold. It's a literal seed, and then when it connects with the woman's seed, it transforms into another seed. That's how the man and the woman become one flesh. You see that? By the house of their fathers. The seed of the father. Lineage, race, progeny, descendants in a line from a common progenitor. You see that? By a common progenitor. When you see that arbor at the end, it's talking about a male. Progenitor. It's not going to say that when it's talking about the female. You see what I'm saying? Progenitor. We about to get it. We about to prove it. Let's see what this common progenitor is. An ancestor in the direct line, a forefather. Nah, it's a foremother. In the direct line, a forefather. Adam was the progenitor of the human race. You see that? Lineage is determined by the male seed. The seed of the father, ladies and gentlemen. And that's another episode right here. Another lesson. Pedigree. Seed of the father. This big brother, Zephaniah, Yehoiakim, Yasha'Allah, from SLT School of Truth. You know, that's how you put a class together, Israel. You got to leave no stones unturned to prove your premise and your point. See that? Seed of the father means what it means in the scriptures. Seed of the father. Shalom.